on the ground, and after a few sharp kicks to the ribs for good measure, they left. I didn't know what to make. I was expecting death. Suddenly I was free. The pavement was deserted except for a small group of soldiers around where they beat prisoners. One was chained there, an arm on either side, his back to the shoulder with a scourge. He was laying into every stroke. So I didn't know him. The others were enjoying the show. I could hear their cursing. The black remarks about Jews. Something about a king of the Jews. This one I had never seen before. But I was close enough to see that it wasn't one of my zealot brothers. I didn't know what strange man could purchase my release. But I prayed that whatever it was would work for my comrades as well. It was laying into every stroke. His back was laid open by the scourge. He made no sound. Instead of cursing the soldiers, he merely took their abuse. Instead of struggling against the pain, he merely gazed up to the sky. So his spirit had already left his body. Now, nephew, nowhere is the air sweeter than outside the walls of a prison, and I sucked as much as I could of it in my lungs. I thought I was headed to my death, and now I was walking the streets of Jerusalem, a free man. Then a hand reached out and jerked me into an alleyway. Ananias was a comrade, the only one to escape when we had been captured. He kissed me in greeting, but also I was sure to confirm that I wasn't the ghost.
It's dangerous for you to be on the streets today.
Why? I've just been released. I'm a free man.
Maybe, but today, the city isn't safe for any of us.
And I remember the voices I heard from myself. Crucify him, crucify him. Let him be crucified. I thought it was for me, but then I was free. Ananias, they were beating a man at the pavement when they released me. Who was he?
You don't know.
I wouldn't be asking if I did.
He's a prophet that was arrested last night. They say he claims to be Messiah.
Well, why release me?
Pilate gave us a choice. He wanted us to release Jesus.
Jesus?
A prophet, a Galilean. They say he hails from Nazareth. Pilate offered him as the one to be released, but I was there. I was in the crowd and I saw the priests lobbying the people to shout out your name instead. Every time Pilate offered Jesus, the people answered back with your name. You finally gave in. You were set free, and Jesus was sent to the cross.
My cause. They're going to crucify him on the cross that was meant for me.
I suppose they are.
Where's Caleb and Maloff?
Nothing has changed. They're going to be crucified along with the Galilean.
This isn't right. There's got to be something we can do. What can we do to save them?
There's nothing we can do. You've been up all night plotting for some way to turn this around. But there's nothing we can do. We can't stop the deaths.
Have they left the praetorium yet?
They should be on their way now.
We use back streets that would take us around Herod's palace to a point between it and the gate used to leave the city for Golgotha. The streets were quiet. Life was normal in most of the city. Women swept off their suits, babies cried for their milk, children played in the streets. But as we approached the main street that bounded the city, the noise of a procession filled the air. Dust from 1,000 feet clouded the street, and it was reduced to a narrow passage by the press of the people. This scene of utter chaos. The soldiers weren't gentle as they cleared the way. They used their swords, spears to shove and bruise their way to the city gates. It was a horrible scene. Gauge the crowd. Some were enjoying the show, hurling stones and insults at the condemned. Others wept over their treatment, fainting. Here and there, I noticed men standing erect at the edge of the crowd, staring ahead as though members of the secret sentry her eyes filled with tears. I searched valiantly for my comrades, the ones left behind in my escape. Leading the way was Naboth. Dark, fiery, dependable Naboth. Defiant and proud under the weight of the heavy crossbeam. Last came the gentle Gideon. The bright one, the thinker. My heart broke to see him struggling under the weight of the cross. It would be a short day, and that his frail body wouldn't last long. Between my two friends was the man called Jesus, the Galilean. Though I didn't know him, my heart broke over how the Romans had treated a fellow Jew. The back of his robe was soaked with blood. His arms were bruised and cut. His face was misshapen from the beating he had received. As if all that wasn't enough, jammed into the top of the sick joke only the depraved could enjoy, to crown over vacation workers. Soon we were at a place called the Skull. This was all common stuff for the soldiers. They had done the same routine many times before. Their movements were mechanical and efficient. They laid each man onto his back, positioned the cross beneath their shoulder blades and their arms. They lashed my friend's arms to the crossbones. But with Jesus, a special case, the executioner drove an iron spike through his wrists into the post. The soldiers then took hold of the crossbeam, lifted him up, and placed him down on the vertical post. Then, the executioner took hold of his feet, bending his legs at the knees, and drove a final spike through his feet and into the vertical post. What evil devised such a death? I could barely hold back my rage. This wasn't the time or the place, but I vowed then to make the Romans pay, and pay dearly for this injustice. There's an anger so wretched, so deep, it can't bear its own weight. There's a despair so profound, it can't sustain itself. If hell itself could be painted into plaster by the finest artist, it still wouldn't equal the depravity and misery of the scene before me. Two brave men, my friends and comrades, hung dying, gasping for air. Yes, they had taken life. Yes, they had broken the laws of our land and our God. But for them to die in such a way was more than I could bear. For if they were guilty, so was I. I had taken life. I had broken the very laws that set our nation apart from every other. Had our zeal for justice blinded us to the injustice of our own actions?